The truth is, it's a much deeper inyan. It has to do with this. The Baal Shem Tov was being megala pnimiyus haTorah, pnimiyus Torah sanister. Pnimiyus haTorah is megala that the relationship between a person and Hashem is not one that's defined only in terms of subservience. That's a very limiting way of defining it. It's really a nekud of achdus. If I tell somebody, you're going to be a slave your whole life, but you know what? It's worth it. You're going to be a slave for 99 years, but when you finish that, you're going to have eternal bliss. So even if I take you seriously and it's true and all that, but sof kol sof, those 99 years have an element that's depressing. Or as there was a philosopher, he didn't like Jews, his name was Voltaire. He once said, if there is a God, I want to be him. I want to be him. Mechaya HaMesim. I want to be Mechaya HaMesim. HaMamlich Malachim V'lo Yamlucha. Right? I want to be Mamlich Malachim V'lo Yamlucha. Sof kol sof, it's an element of subservience. Emotionally, it's difficult. The Baal Shem Tov was megala this nekuda of einoid mulvada. Avodas Hashem doesn't mean you put yourself aside. I don't care who you are. Surrender to the big master and you'll get Olam Haba for that. No. Avodas Hashem actually means a relationship with yourself. So Avodas Hashem is celebrated in a different way. It actually means a way of living in which you're aligned with you. That's what Bitul means. Bitul means not you nullify yourself for the sake of a big God because he's stronger than your tati and he's bigger than you and he's more powerful and he'll reward you. And it's for your benefit. Avodas Hashem actually means alignment with the ultimate self. That's what Bitul means. Bitul means you shed the layers and the perceptions of self as though you're disconnected, as though you're alone, as though you're detached, as though you're external. It means actually tuning in to your own real Metzias, your deepest Metzias. So when you ask, what is the blueprint of Torah for life? The blueprint of Torah for life is basically a blueprint that allows life to be lived in a way that is consistent with its true chemistry, with its true essence. So the whole attitude is a different attitude. So it's not that Yiddishkeit is this heavy burden that God placed on me and I'm a slave, but there's a good reward coming after. And there's also a lot of benefits, while you're a slave. You work for me, but there's benefits. I give you maybe some benefits. I'm not always, but there's schar mitzvah b'hayal maleka, but there's good stuff on the way. You work in my house, there's a good Shabbos meal, there's a lot of benefits. I go to breakfast.
What if his alignment is not aligned with the Kodesh Baruch Hu desire? So let's say you have different desires.
You mean homosexuality?
Not kosher desires. I don't mean homosexuality particularly, but somebody might have a different wrong desires, which doesn't fit into the book, into the front.
Nechemi doesn't understand your question.
Impossible? Nechemia? I'll have a private conversation with you after.
You're asking a wonderful question. What happens if a person's self says absolutely not? My self is not a reflection of you. I have my own desires that are completely maybe contrary to what the Torah says about a person. Right? Gewaldige kasha.
It's proving it that it's functioning even better.
Huh?
One of its proofs is that it's functioning perfectly. And it fulfills his desires.
Right. LGBT, etc.
Not only that, it's just any addictions in a way. I operate better with a cigarette. It's mitzvahs. Is it good for me? Is it what Hashem wants me to do?
So it's a very sensitive question. I'll just say one nekuda. The nekuda is that There's two levels in Avodas Hashem. Something called the skafia and something called the hapcha. We spoke about it many times. Skafia means to subdue. The hapcha means to transform. It's not two opposite things. It's two layers in reality. What do I mean, two layers in reality? The doctor tells me there's diabetes in my family, which the doctor told me. And therefore I have to be careful with sugar, which the doctor told me. I'm not just giving a mashal from Rakia Hashri, right? But you go in here, Baruch Hashem, in the morning, and there's always a yard site, yeah? And somebody always prepares not cucumbers. I don't know why they don't prepare cucumbers. They prepare sprinkle cake and brownies and rum ball. What are those balls called? Those toxic balls that can kill you on the spot? They have like chocolate. Those are with layers, chocolate, like the babushkas. What are those called? Those balls? Yeah, yeah. Instead of celery, that's what they have, right? I see it, and I may want it. I may want it. Not I may. I want it, right? I want it. All the philosophies in the world won't help. I want it. Such a moment calls what they call the skafia. Skafia means, say, listen, you want to live or you want to die? When you eat it, I get it. When I eat it, I already get into a bad mood. You want to be in a bad mood? You want to be in the bathroom for a few hours? Huh? Oh, so even though, but I want it. But it's not a subjugation that is torturous, because it's a subjugation where I understand very clearly that my gums, my saliva, my abdomen, my body has a certain craving, but right now this craving is not going to be worth it. That's a very logical thing everyone makes when people wake up in the morning. They also maybe they don't want to wake up in the morning. You want to press snooze. Huh? It may not change the craving at all. That's what a skafia means. I have a craving, but knowing that it's really destructive for me, is it really worth it? I could sleep in bed also, not wake up in the morning. I'm not going to show up. I'm not going to get a paycheck on Friday, right? Why do people get out of bed in the morning? Whatever your motivation is. I need a parnas. I want to support my wife and kids. That's more important than the sleep, even though it's hard for me to wake up in the morning. We always make these calculations, yeah? You take out a splinter from your child is screaming, right? You don't tell him it's geschmack. But you know the alternative is an infection, and an infection is going to be much more painful, chas v'shalom, than taking out the splinter. We all do these things in life constantly, where you delay gratification, or you postpone it, or you ignore the gratification. Why? Because you understand that your reality is going to regret it, and what you really want is you want to live. More than cheesecake, you want to live, you want to be healthy. Right? We're talking about a person who's functional and likes their life. I'm not talking about somebody, Khalila, who's in a terrible, depressing state. But there's a much deeper, and if I'm there, that's what I have to acknowledge. I have to acknowledge that's where I am. There's a much deeper place. And a deeper place is that I'm not always there is when a person actually works out their stuff and goes deeper into themselves. Ultimately, those cravings that are not producing and are not helping me be me become sometimes, and we know this in our life, they become meus. They become completely irrelevant. That's called hapcha. That's called transformation. Whenever a person, we all have taivas. We all have taivas, cravings that are not consistent with the Dvar Hashem. But if the person was truly, whether it's intimate stuff or other stuff, when a person is truly working on themselves and worked out, we shed another layer. And what yesterday was so tempting, today becomes irrelevant. There's a person, right, who needs alcohol for their health, for their happiness. Is this really what their soul is looking for? Now I know this in the world, this is controversial, but if you look at many sexual desires of people, right? It's considered as, this is what you want, is the color of your eyes. But if you go a little deeper and you ask them about their life and their past and what they went through, I think in most cases you will identify that there may be wounds or traumas that contribute to it. So now I could tell somebody, this is what you want today, this is who you are. But that's a very, very superficial way of looking at it. How do you know this? Because most of these marriages, really most, I think more than 90%, end up in divorce. Why? Because there's an underlying pain that's not being addressed. So it's much, much more kind when I tell the person, let's really find out who you are. Now, when I'm standing in front of that craving, I may not have the time or the patience for that. That's when I have to say, this is the wrong thing, I'm not going to do it. But in the process of life, a person does have the ability to work on themselves, and then we see slowly we shed more external cravings that eclipse our truer and innate desire. A craving of Kedusha is something that 80 years from now, in Olam Haza and in Olam Haba, will still be there, because it's something that your soul wants. It's something that the you really, really is connected to. But there's other stuff. What if I'm wounded? What if I need to distract myself? What if I'm bored? What if I'm lonely? What if I don't like myself? What if I want validation? Remember, there's many of us who do things our whole life that are not good for us. But we need it. It's filling some type of void. And that void becomes a major, major catalyst for all these types of behaviors. And once I'm entrenched in it, I say, this is who I am. It's not who I am. It's actually who I am not. It's actually running away from me. It's running away from myself. And we all have that because we live in this duality. I don't live in a world of seeing my infinite oneness. But imagine, somebody wrote a book, what would you be doing if you had no fear? If you had no fear whatsoever, what would your life look like? You know? Would it be different? And a lot of people, maybe 50% of things they would do, they're not doing because of fear, whether they feel it or not. So when a person says, this is who I am, this is who I am, is a very, I think it's an impoverished statement about who I am. It's what I'm feeling right now based on all of the equations of my life till now. This is my craving. Can we dissect it a little bit? Can we see what's behind it? Can it be possible that this is all a coping response to my experiences in the past, and this is my best way to cope? If a person is always getting angry, there's people who lose their temper and their fuse a few times a day. You ever met such people? Huh? Okay. And a person tells their wife, this is who I am. I'm an angry meshugana. Take me or leave me. Yes, once a week I throw dishes. Try. Rashi will throw you out of the house. But there's a therapist who told me that, Mr. Lamb told me that somebody once came to him, a couple once came to him, and the problem was that once a month he loses it, and he throws dishes in the kitchen. He throws dishes. And his wife says that she lives in perpetual fear, 24 hours of fear. So the husband is sitting there, he says, why? It's only once a month. It's brilliant Gemara, right? You see he's learning Gemara, right? It's only once a month. It's Bekvius, once a month. So she says, yeah, but I don't know when. It's not like on the calendar, Wednesday morning, 8:35 when I finish davening and daf yomi, I lose it.
He needs to go to the doctor to correct his cycle.
His vesas. At least make a vesas, right. But there's still, it's not a bad idea if you could only do it that way. But we know even with God's vesas, it's not so predictable. And this is the Yetzer Hara's vesas. She says, it's only once a month. She says, yeah, but I don't know when. So 24 hours a day I'm living. Maybe this is going to be the moment of Geula, of Churban, right? What's my point? So a person says, this is who I am. This is who I am. This is how I function. This is not who you are. This is who you became due to a terrible wound that you never have. Whatever it may be, for you this means survival. And when you go into this place, you're literally a crocodile. You're in your, what they call the reptilian brain or mammalian brain. You're not in your human brain. You're not. And it's not about judgment. On the contrary, it's about identifying. What's the greatest favor you can do for such a person? The greatest favor you do for a person, if we can go through those layers that are defining who I am and covering who I am, and ultimately I want to help you and me go back to the place where you are a manifestation of divine infinity in this world. Do you think this anger is necessary to your survival, or maybe it's the greatest impediment for your self-expression? Now, when I'm getting angry, I can't do any of this. I just want to break every window. All I can do is iskafia. Iskafia means you saw what happened last time when you threw the pot. So don't do it. But I'm angry. Okay, go to the garage, take a bat, and your tire is there 300 times. Do 92 push-ups, right? And you'll be fine. Run around the block, 65 times. This is good. But ultimately, there's ishapcha. Ishapcha means going much deeper. So I think you say a person's nature is not consistent with this. That's it's a very true thing, but it needs a lot of emesdika research. Am I really open up to everything in my reality? First of all, am I aware? It may be pre-verbal, it may be unconscious, but if I could look at everything. So the real truth is that the true nature of a human being is aligned with Hashem's will. Not because I want reward. But the reason there is reward is, it's a taitzah, right? You don't serve God because it's a reward. The reason there's reward is because you're in touch with reality. Yeah. Schar mitzvah is the mitzvah. So the Balatanya Taichin was a schar mitzvah. Some say the reward mitzvah, you'll do another mitzvah, you'll get more schar. He says, no, the biggest schar of the mitzvah is the mitzvah itself. It's like somebody would say, why should I have a good marriage? Oh, because the cholent will be much better. Because her father will give you money. The schar of a good marriage is what? A good marriage. There's no better schar than that. The schar of a good relationship is not, her father will take you Pesach to hotel if you treat his daughter nicely. Gesundheit hate. I don't know if you want to be with him Pesach, but whatever. You'll figure it out. If he's paying for the hotel, why not? Schar mitzvah is the biggest schar of the relationship, is the relationship. Are there other benefits? Yeah, there's a lot of other benefits. The house is clean, you have good meals, there's laundry, whatever the benefits are, physical, spiritual, emotional. But the biggest benefit is the benefit itself. So the schar of having a good relationship with your child, investing in your child, the schar is that when you're in an old age home, when you're 95 years old, he'll pay for it. Nebach. The schar is the Indian itself. The biggest schar of the relationship is the relationship. Because it's so powerful and good, therefore there's all the schar. Yiddishkeit is not about schar. The Rambam has a lashon Hilchos Tshuva Perek Yud. Oisa es ha'emes mipnei sho emes. V'soif ha'schar lovoi beglala. So somebody asked me, the Rambam doesn't make sense. He says, do it because it's truth, but don't worry, the reward is going to come at the end. So again, it's like, don't do it for the reward, but don't worry, I'm going to pay you. But they're missing the point. What the Rambam is saying is, v'soif ha'schar lovoi beglala. Truth also brings all the rewards in the world. If it's true, it's going to pay you off. Not as a motivation, because it's true. If something makes you happy, if something is aligned with you, it's going to make you healthy in this world, in the next world. If you're living a life based on who you really are, based on real alignment, it's going to feel good, physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, in this world and the next world. You're not living with blockages. I'm not living in my traumas. It's an end result. It's not the motivation. So if there's a sense of there's me and there's God, now the question is, how much am I ready to give up? That's ultimately it can be a depressing Yiddishkeit. But when you're Megala, the Nekud of Einoid Mulvadoi, like the Baal Shem Tov, you say, God is Alts and Alts is God. You are the Dvar Hashem. There's no separate. You are Ein Shtik Achdus Hashem. So then the whole Avodas Hashem is a different type of simcha. It's the ultimate self-expression. Bitul is not self-nullification. Yeshus is self-nullification. The rest, Yesh is a self-nullification. Bitul is self-expression. I never said that before, just came out. Huh? Yesh is a self-nullification. Nebach. You're taking a beautiful mitzias and you're destroying it by turning it into some arrogant, pitiful creature who has to be arrogant. That's self-nullification. That's a churban. Bitul is self-actualization. It means you're expressed. You're expressed. And yet it's also the ultimate humility, because the you that's expressed is the divine glory manifested in you coming out. It's the Dvar Hashem coming out. And it's oneness. It's not two separate things. There's God in the sky and there's me and he's controlling me. No, he and you are him. He's you, you're him.
That's a danger to become self-righteous.
It could be, everything could be dangerous. That's why monotheism came before this. Monotheism was the Emunah Bashamayim Imal. But then there's Al-Aretz Mitachas Einoid. Because this can also become, there's the Spinoza's idea, there's nothing outside of nature and there's nothing outside of me. But this is much deeper. It's not saying there's nothing outside of me. It's not saying there's no God outside of me. It's saying there's no me outside of God. Right? Chazal say, Hu mekaymer shel olam ve'ein ha'olam mekaymer. Baruch ha'makam baruch hu mekaymer shel olam ve'ein ha'olam mekaymer. Did I answer your question, Abavram? Or not really?
No,